Rock, paper,
I was
scissors.
gonna say. So is it rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
Shoot.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, I start. Okay. Well, Adam and I were just gonna film an intro, and we saw a nice piece of styrofoam, floating down the water. So if you're out there, just pick up your stuff. Don't let it go in the water. If you are out, bring a plastic bag or something to pick stuff up. Just leave it better than you found it. So, hi, I'm Scott,
I'm Adam.
and we're two friends fishing.
So today it is our first day actually tossing a line in the water in Wisconsin. We've been sitting through a pretty long winter and just got over a massive snowstorm, like a week ago?
Yep.
So the water is super, super high from the 20 plus inches of snow we got in the course of 2 days.
Yep, 20, 24, something like that. Like Adam said, it's been a long winter. I resorted to going, sturgeon spearing and watching some family do that. And then I tried ice fishing for the first time and we actually had a blast. So probably coming up this winter, we'll have some content around that as well. But yeah, like Adam said, it's been a long winter. We're really excited to be out here on the water and actually see water without a sheet of ice over it.
Right. So today we just wanted to come out and just throw a few lines and just talk about some fishing information that we've learned throughout the years. More specifically, just talking about what do we look for in a bank fishing spot? Because both Scott and I grew up bank fishing. Neither of us had boats or kayaks in the family, so we just wanted to share that information with you.
Yeah, so come along, have some fun with us, and we're just going to be two friends fishing. Getting in a couple early season casts, and one thing I was thinking about was, feeling a little bit nostalgic about when I, fished from the bank growing up. Adam and I have talked about how we didn't have boats and didn't have kayaks really growing up, and we fished from the bank a lot. So we thought we'd go through a little bit what we look for when we're fishing from the bank. For me, when I'm bank fishing, I'm always looking at kind of the relationship between the current that I can see and then any sort of structure that I can see on top of the water. So like any sort of laydowns or any sort of weeds. And then I like to see the interplay about where I can tell that the current is moving. And then I guess if you can tell a little bit on the wind as well, because generally fish are not going to want to expend more energy than they have to. So, if they're going to have to fight extra current, they're probably going to go somewhere a little bit away from where you can see the current on the top of the water. And they do like to have that structure, bass, smallmouth bass, they like to build up their nests around structure. Northern pike, you'll see a lot of times around structure, especially in rivers. I've had a lot of success catching northerns in rivers around here, but really what I'm looking for, that the number one thing is really that current and how it interplays with structure that you can see on top of the water.
I like to look for some laydowns and things like that, especially later in the season when we start seeing a lot more grass, lily pads, and weeds start growing. I like to look for those spots as well, because like what Scott said, bass like to hang out around structure. They like to use those spots specifically for ambushing bait fish as they're coming by. So like laid down trees, weed edges, thick grass flats and stuff like that, bass are gonna love hanging out in those areas. But of course, if you're throwing something that does have an exposed hook on it, or something with like treble hooks, you're gonna have a much harder time fishing those areas. So that's why I like to fish with a little bit more weedless setups, especially when I'm going to a brand new body of water.